Welcome to the Daily Solutions podcast. Enter now. You are not worthy.
All right, hey everyone.
Welcome.
Graham here.
Ashkahn over here.
And today's question is, when does a float start? When the shower starts? When they get out of the tank? Also, how to handle when people are late or talking too much. I have a few chatty guests who throw the time off.
When does a float start? That's like one of those questions I hope our customers never ask. Like, I'm just like
You're going to say like a sophist kind of question, like what's the sound of one hand clapping, you know? When does a float start?
Yeah, if a float starts and no one's in the tank.
Time is just an illusion, so. So I guess it's probably different for different centers as well. The way that we do it at Float On is the timing for the floats just starts at whatever time the appointment starts at, and it ends a half an hour before the next client needs to come in.
So we're lying to people a little bit.
But we also try to get people in early. So let's back up from there. So basically, you know, if there's a 9 p.m. float,
yeah,
the 90 minutes for a 90-minute float starts at 9 p.m., which means at 10:30 the music's going to come on.
Yep.
And for us, the reason that we do that is because in order to keep our schedule, we just need to make sure that the music comes on at a certain time, so we have time to change over our rooms. And part of that's because we stay busy, and another part of that is because we have all of our floats starting at the exact same time.
Which is 6 tanks, so we're doing a 6-tank turnover in that 30 minutes.
Which means timing ends up being really important for us. So like our decision starts at the fact we need that music to go on for 9 p.m. float, 10:30.
Yeah.
Which means we kind of don't have wiggle room for waiting for people to get in the tank or measuring exactly when they shut the door to the float tank and lay down or anything like that.
So unfortunately, for us, it's really like if you go into your room at 9 o'clock, I mean, you're still showering and all that stuff. So your float's probably actually only like 85 minutes or something like that. And on double, unfortunately, especially if it's your first time and we got to go in and give you the whole kind of walkthrough speech and everything, that cuts into that time too. So, and by the same token, if people come early, like you were saying, you know, especially like our regulars, we'll show up 5-10 minutes early. It depends on which room, but some of our rooms get finished 10 minutes before the mark. Some get finished right at the mark, you know, stuff like that. But if they're early and the room's ready, we'll throw them in there and they might get longer than 90 minutes.
Yep. And some of our members are actually really smart about just trying to optimize their tank time too.
Yeah.
I know at least 2 of them that come in pre-showered. Like they shower at their house before they come in to float on, so they don't have to waste early float time showering there. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and this really might vary a lot from center to center, but at our center, unfortunately, there's probably a chance a lot of people are not actually getting 90 minutes inside the float tank because of that shower time and the way that our schedule runs and everything. But even despite that, it's very rarely brought up. Like it's really not that often that a customer will like even ask us what their time is based on or when it counts as started or.
And when they start to bring it up too, I just kind of give them this stern, disapproving look, and they usually just sort of drop it, you know.
Kick them out.
That's what happens to floaters who ask questions.
So yeah, most people, and it might be one of the benefits of having 90-minute sessions over 60-minute sessions. Like, I think people are kind of sweating the exact minutes a lot less at 90 minutes than they do for 60 minutes. Like 55 minutes instead of 60 is kind of a bigger deal. And I find the same thing for our 2.5-hour floats. Almost nobody cares if they're getting in 5 minutes late.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that. Our late night floats are definitely an extension of that.
Yeah, no one's like counting the minutes on their clock to get in there for those 2.5 hours.
That's a good point, actually. I hadn't thought about the difference between the 60 and 90. It probably is a little more important to have your schedule really honed in on getting them that full 60 minutes when you're doing that.
Yeah. And, you know, in terms of the second part of the question, like what do you do if someone's super chatty or something like that? The nice thing is if someone's super chatty and they're eating into their own time, they're usually the type of person who doesn't care. Or like they're kind of doing it to themselves, and I think they recognize that a little bit.
Yep, and this is also assuming that you're going with our model of just starting everything and it's over when that start time
Which is true. There's a lot of places that don't do that, and a lot of float tanks come not set to operate like that, right? Like a lot of float tanks come with this thing where you hit like start float session.
Yep.
And that, from the moment you hit that button, times out whatever your thing is, 90 minutes or 90 minutes and then music or whatever your kind of custom setup is.
Yeah. And again, if your schedule's not really packed, then obviously you have a little more leeway with how nice you can be with people. If there's not someone coming in immediately afterwards,
right.
that loosens up some of the restrictions. But to a certain extent, your hands are kind of tied. Like either you can increase the length of your transitions in order to allow for the full float time of what's booked. You can just advertise 80-minute floats or something if you want to be totally accurate. And when people do get 90 or 95-minute floats, it's just kind of icing on the cake. There's some options, but yeah, I mean, just the realities of needing to get people in on time and the fact that when you turn on music for the people who were in there previously, they don't always get out on time. So like keeping everything on a fixed schedule, again, at least in our center, we haven't really found a way to get outside of that. So it's sort of an unnecessary or not unfortunate
necessity.
Necessity. Yeah, there we go. There's too many words in there.
I mean, yeah, and same thing for if people are late, I think was maybe the other part of the question. Like, unfortunately at our place, they just get a shorter float time. Like, we can't really leave them in there for longer and throw off our entire kind of routine and everything else. So, I think this is something that's not super conventional at every float center doing it the same way. I think really it is like the way you kind of set up and exactly how busy you are and what your timing is and if your schedule is on a very fixed schedule. So what you're hearing from us is an extremely rigid, fixed structure. Like all our floats start at the same time. They start at very specific times. There's very little flexibility in the way that our schedule runs. And because of that limited flexibility, it means things like this. If people are late, they get shorter floats. If people are chatty, they get shorter floats. If we get them in late, they get shorter floats.
Although that's like the case where we'll actually try to accommodate them as well.
Right.
As much as possible. Like it's like, okay, well, we'll try to add an extra 5 minutes on to the end of your float or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, there you have it.
All right. If you guys have more questions, you can hop over to floatanksolutions.com/podcast and we'll answer them.
Hopefully.
We'll hopefully answer them. Okay.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right.